So DMT is, I can't remember what it stands for, like dimethyltryptophan or something like that, but it's a compound that's in all living beings, and it's especially prevalent in humans at the point of birth and at the point of death. So it's also called the spirit molecule because people believe that's the spirit entering and exiting the body. We have DMT in us anyway, but like certain compounds like ayahuasca is a tea ceremony that you can do to do that. You can smoke pure DMT, which will be like maybe like a 15-minute experience, as opposed to ayahuasca, which may be like 6 to 8 hours. 5-MeO DMT is even stronger than DMT. It's like a rocket ship.
Harry, my good friend, good to see you, my friend. It's been a while. I think we haven't connected for what, 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
No, more than that. I've been away for 5. So
well, we've travelled to what? How many countries between us in that time since we last called? I've been to at least 3.
I don't know whether I had gone to Slovakia or not. I can't even remember if I'd been to Slovakia and
I think you're about
Austria.
to go.
Okay, yeah. So I went to Slovakia, Austria, and then I've been in Colombia for a long time as well.
Nice. Colombia. I remember when you dropped me a message going, hey, I'm in Colombia. I don't think that was even on the agenda. You just suddenly ended up in the darkest part of South America.
Basically, what happened was I was going to go out to Argentina, see a friend, then he didn't get back to me. So then I started looking into going to Burning Man. Have you heard of Burning Man?
I have heard of Burning Man. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started getting ready for that, right into all these camps, trying to get a last minute addition to a camp. And then my mate got back in touch with me and he's like, oh no, come to, he was in Bogota doing some stem cell treatment because he broke his back last year, actually. And it's kind of healed a little bit, but he's doing some stem cells treatment. So he's like, well, why don't you come out? He knows people in Medellin and go there for a few days and then go to Argentina and hang out in his place in Buenos Aires because he's moved there since he broke his back. And long story short, I think I booked it on the Tuesday, or spoke to him on the Tuesday, booked it for the Wednesday, and the plan was to go for like 5 days and go to Buenos Aires. So in the end, we had a bit of a social circle there. So we ended up spending like 5 weeks. Well, he was there 4 weeks. I was there for 5 weeks, but I took a couple of breaks because it was a bit intense, if I'm honest, just being with the whole thing that was going on there. It's a bit of a bigger story. I'm not sure if we've got a PG-13 show, but so I was like, this is all a bit too intense. So after about 2 weeks, I went off by myself to a place called Tirona and Santa Marta, which is like this national park area, which is amazing. Did some hikes and swimming and things. Came back for another week and then went off for 5 days and went to this island, which I didn't know they had this island in Colombia called San Andreas, which is actually near Nicaragua. It's a beautiful island. So I went there and then came back for a night or two, then flew back. So yeah, it's been pretty busy, but we had a nice big social circle there. So we were like, why build it again in Buenos Aires? We've already got it kind of purpose built in Medellin. So we had lots of like expats who were there, and then like locals who we connected with. So yeah, it was intense. How about you, eh? What's going on?
Yeah, well, that's less intense on the travelling. I've been to Copenhagen for the Ironman, which you know about, which went through. Got back from Copenhagen, went to Turkey for 2 weeks, and while we were in Turkey, we got a ferry and spent 3 days in Samos in Greece.
Oh, yeah.
And then, so yeah, we've been out of the way that whole of August. I take August off every year with the family and had some proper connection time with them, water slides and all the things you do on families, which, vacations, which is great. And then straight back into the throes of work. But yeah, no, it's been good. I think last time I spoke to you was pre-race. I've been through that now, which was good. And a few things happened while we were there. Got a puncture during the race, which derailed me. I did a blog on it, actually. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it, but it was interesting because we're talking about mindset. Middle of the race, I gave myself a sub 11 hour time. If I do that, I'd be really, really happy. And then the race started, and I tell you what, the speed of the course was like no other course I'd done. It was just a fast course, perfect road surfaces. I started really well despite limited training, and about 90k into the ride, I was have all these imaginations you have in your head. You're out there for a while. Did the swim, really good swim for me. Got out at almost the same time as the mate of mine has been training hard for it. We jump on the bikes and 90k, and I've been averaging just about 36 kilometers an hour for the first 2.5, 2 and a bit hours. So we were racing along at some pace, and I was thinking to myself, "This is great. I'm going to finish this in like a sub 5 hour bike time." Suddenly, I was thinking, you know what? If I keep this up, I'm going to break 10 hours. Like, it took me a year to train to break 10 hours last time, but this course is so fast. You have all these imaginations of what's going to happen. You're feeling great. You're feeling energized. And then I got a puncture. And I was like, oh no, I hate this. Anyway, I got a puncher, got off my bike. Immediately, you see all the bikes just fly past you because it's dead time, right? It stops. Stupidly, you learn the mistakes through doing, right. It's my 10th event, so I was probably overdue. But anyway, so I got off. I got my tar levers out, and I got the worst, most pathetic set of tar levers you've ever seen. Why? Because they saved me a gram. Right? They were so rubbish. Couldn't get the tar off my bike for love or money. I was fretting. I was just wasting time. And then the canister I'd bought, I hadn't really checked or used before. It wasn't working, so that didn't work. I had a little mini hand pump that got it to no real 60 psi. I lost 14 minutes. It felt like 14 hours. Anyway, by the time I got back on my bike and got going, the average pace, obviously because it's in race mode, so your average pace carries on. So the pace had dropped from 36 to 31 and a half or something, 32 kilometers an hour. And I was like, oh, now I'm looking at a really long bike. Now the sub 10's gone. I couldn't get the energy back, got back on the bike. I sulked. I like to think, as you know, I'm pretty positive. I'm pretty I was sulking. I got on and I couldn't get the bike moving. I couldn't get my legs working. I was just miserable. And I would say for about the next 40 kilometers, I just sulked my pants off and couldn't get the energy back. And then eventually, I think time passes and you're still out there. You're out on the bike for a fair while. It's 180 kilometers. Whatever it was, about 120k mark. I thought, no, let's go for this. I've got a marathon to go for. I may as well, I've made all this route. I can still go under 11 hours. Let's keep going. So anyway, finished the bike in 5:22, so about 20 minutes over where I was hoping to be. So I probably lost, in my head, I lost at least, because when I stopped the bike, I was on for doing about 4:50 on the bike. I ended up doing 5:22. So if you take off the 14 minutes, I think I've lost a good 15 minutes there just in sulking, just because I didn't push it.
Yeah.
Anyway, got on the marathon, ended up running. I got my mojo back, ended up running one of the best, was the best marathon Ironman I've done. I did it in 3:25 and finished in 10:09. So what's the lesson? I could say the puncher cost me 14 minutes, and without the puncher, I'd have gone under 10 hours, right?
Yeah.
I could also say that even with the puncher, if I hadn't sulked, and I'd kept that positive mindset, I still think I'd have broken 10 hours. I will never know.
Look, I've never done one of those long races, and it's really hard, I imagine, to keep that motivation up for 10 hours, 12 hours. I mean, a friend of mine did. He's a big fella. I can't remember if you've met him or not, Trevor. But he did one, a really hard one, I think, in Norway once, and I remember he was doing 17 hours. It took a while. It was like a beast of a thing. So I've never, I haven't really done anything like that for coming up for 20 years. I think the last triathlon I did was 2007, so a long time ago. So I wouldn't be too hard on yourself. I mean, I saw your time.
I just thought in the context of the show that we do, right? It's about mindful paths, and I was like, I
it's all about myself
to always be positive, right? And when I was feeling positive, energy was flowing. I was not worried about getting tired at the 90k mark. I was thinking, I am flying. I'm going to absolutely blitz this. Nothing but positive thoughts, loads of energy, really enjoying it. The minute that happened, negative thoughts, no energy, couldn't get moving.
Look, we've talked about this before, though, on the show. It's not about being positive all the time, right? It's about taking those emotions, embracing those, noticing those, not getting attached to them. Actually, I did quite a few workshops while I was abroad, which was tough, I have to say, because time zone difference. So I did one workshop, ironically, I think I did it around 2 a.m. So I went to bed at 11, got up about 1:30, got ready, did this talk, which is ironically about sleep for these executives. And I didn't know I was going to be in Colombia at the time, to be honest. And otherwise I wouldn't have agreed to it probably. And then I did one the following week on my, on a day where I had to get up at 2 and then deliver at the same one again at 9 and couldn't get back to sleep a while. But that was on integrative mindfulness. So we were talking about how to integrate mindfulness into your day-to-day so it doesn't take up any extra time, but it's the things that you're already doing. But when it comes to mindfulness, what we're talking about here is not getting caught up in your emotions, not just being the observer and just not trying to think, well, that's a good emotion, that's a bad emotion, just observing it. So yeah, I think it's totally normal to feel a little bit dejected. You see those people coming past you. I think you pulled out of that trough pretty quickly, though, by the sounds of it.
I did pull out. I still think the weird thing was, right?
You would have done 12 hours.
I'd have taken that time. I'd have ripped your arm off for that time pre-race. Like I was expecting to be right on the.
Yeah, I remember you telling me because
11 hours really.
You hadn't even done the training.
No,
I mean this is what I say to people because I always talk about you in the context of being the fittest person I know, and I always talk about it in the context of like you would be like, you know, top tier professional if you slept well and drank more water. You'd be like unstoppable if you did those two things. I know
I'm not sure I've actually drank any water. I've got a water thing in front of me.
You'll be pleased to hear. You'll be pleased to hear actually that I haven't drunk much water either.
I'm not pleased to hear. I'm certainly not boasting about this. This is definitely a weakness in my armory.
Because I am like I suddenly realised before this course, like I haven't been to the loo since I've been back. I haven't sat down either because I got back and I'm leaving tomorrow morning at 5 in the morning to go to a friend's wedding in Corfu. So I've literally come in, done the washing. I've got a brand new bag in the background here, which I spent a long time researching, even though I've got this amazing bag there. But this is more of a carry-on bag or under the seat bag. And I'm just trying to get all my stuff in there and it's still drying. And
we need to put this into context because I've managed to grab you today, right? You're about to get yet another flight to go away again.
Yeah.
This is not the only hour free we've got, or for you've got. You've come back from Colombia, you're jet lagged, and you're going off again to Greece.
Yeah. So, sorry, my mum was coming in here. I'm trying my best here as well because I've got the lights on because my blue light light wouldn't work, and so I've got the daylight bulb on, which I'm not happy about. But I've got my blue blockers on. I'm actually going to take some melatonin tonight as well when we get off the call. Hopefully that's going to help. I bought it a couple of years ago. Hopefully it's still valid in Mexico. And I've only really tried it when I came back from Mexico for like 3 or 4 days afterwards. When you come from east to west, I think it's really useful. I
think if used sparingly, it's okay. You just don't want to get into a habit of taking it regularly because it impacts your body's ability to create its own melatonin.
Well, that's what I mean. So one of the reasons I took it originally was because obviously I do a lot of talks about sleep. People are always asking me about things like melatonin. I normally give the same response as you, and you know it does affect your ability, not necessarily to produce melatonin itself, but the way it's absorbed or taken in by your body. But I also wanted to test it, and I did find when I did it a couple of years ago, for those 3 or 4 nights, because it takes me a good couple of weeks actually to get over jet lag. And my body clock might feel like it's adjusted within, say, 4 or 5 days, but I know that I haven't fully adjusted because this might be a bit of too much information for listeners, but my bowel movements are like clockwork, right? Really regular. So I know 6 a.m. like clockwork. So like it takes me about 2 weeks to get back to that point. So I know it takes the whole body about 2 weeks for me to get back after like say a 6 or 8 hour time zone difference. But hopefully the melatonin will help a little bit to like get me to sleep earlier than I would otherwise. And yeah, just set loads of alarms and hopefully get up in time tomorrow.
Very good. So how are you feeling? You know, if you look at your beat model, right? You've had a chance to meet other people, fill up that social bucket, that community bucket. Yeah. You've hopefully had a bit of recovery, which is something a lot of people don't spend enough time or don't invest enough time in getting proper recovery. I always use the Formula One example where you can have the most aerodynamic, most beautiful, expensive car in the world, but if it doesn't have a pit stop, it doesn't finish the race. And we don't take that advice on ourselves. So how are you feeling? You've had a chance to travel and spread your wings and hopefully get some recovery.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really good. The recovery is an interesting one. I don't know if you seen any of my stories, but my Aura ring was not happy with me for at least 3 weeks when I was away. My resilience went to the bottom of the bottom. It couldn't get any lower. It was just tanking.
Flatlined.
Yeah, flatlined. And it was a combination of a bunch of things. I wasn't able to sleep past around 7 a.m. So whatever time I went to bed, whether it was 4 o'clock or 1 o'clock or 11 o'clock, I'd be getting up at 7. And a lot of the times in that first week, we were going to bed quite late. And then there was the jet lag as well and all of that. So and I think I might have had an illness as well because I really felt bad. And we actually hosted a night one night. We hired a chef and we had this nice apartment. So my mate wanted to do it kind of fancy. He's like, what's your budget? And I was like, well, I guess it's this much top end. And he goes, right, I'll cover the rest. In the end, it ended up being 50-50. And that was on the understanding that I was going to spend like 2 weeks like rent free at his place in Buenos Aires, which never happened. although we did get some free accommodation later. But anyway, we had this nice penthouse apartment with a lift that went straight into the apartment, 2 separate bedrooms. And then we hired a chef one night, and we invited a bunch of people over. So it was like maybe like 20 of us, and we had taco night. But I felt like absolute toilet that day. And I went to the shops to buy some things for the chef, and I was like, I don't think I can cope with this. So I had a little nap for about an hour, and then I just pushed through it. But I was really tanking. So I think it was more than just jet lag. I feel like I had probably picked up a virus or something on the plane. And it took me a while. Then after about 2 weeks, I was kind of done with the social part of it, because it was quite intense. There was a group of guys, usually from most of them from America, who were expats that lived there. One guy who was basically been there for about 6 years and was a promoter. So he would arrange parties and bring people to those parties and things like that. So it was quite good because it was a safe environment. Because I'm not sure if you know much about Medellin, but it's famous for Pablo Escobar, the big drug lord.
I know Pablo Escobar. Yeah.
I didn't actually get a chance to go to his compound because we got rained off it. But it's quite a dangerous city. It's a lot better now than it was, say, 20 years ago. I did some cool tours and got some history, but it's still pretty dangerous. My friends would say, you don't want to walk at night, and I love to walk, right? So you don't want to walk back from anywhere at night. There's this dangerous drug which I luckily didn't get exposed to, I think it's called devil's breath or something like that, where someone can just blow in your general direction something, and then it makes you highly suggestible or something like that. One of the guys that I met, I think he got done over by someone on that while I was there, and then got robbed for a little bit of money, but not a huge amount. But there's a lot of dangerous things happening, so it's good to be in a group. I'm not sure if I would have gone there just as a solo backpacker. I would have had a very different experience. But we knew the clubs to go to, the people to invite who were not going to be, people who were going to try and drug you and they would ever steal from you in the night. All of these sorts of things. So we were in quite a safe environment. So it was quite good. So we ended up staying there. But after about 2 weeks, because it was quite intense, I was just like, I need to go. Because I'm used to being by myself anyway. So I went off to this place called Santa Marta, took a flight up there. And then I did 5 nights in 5 different places. So back to the backpack away, even though I had my massive suitcase with me. Came back for a bit. They'd been partying still while I was gone. And then did a little bit more partying. And then I was like, right, I need to do the recovery bit before I go back. So I went to an island and just chilled out on an island by myself for 5 days, which was great. So yeah, recovery is super important. I said on your post actually today, it's I normally suggest to clients, you want a short break, maybe once a week you want a day off, right? Maybe once a month or once every 2 months you want maybe a weekend away, and then a longer break at least every sort of 6 months. And I don't do a good enough job with that. I kind of stack it all in the summer and then, don't do anything for a year. So I know that's one thing I need to work on.
So some of the research that I've looked into say that those, a week's holiday is not enough. It takes a week for your body to prepare itself fully to recover, which is why a 2-week holiday has such a more positive impact. And I would say so I didn't take a 2-week holiday for 2008. I didn't even take maternity I didn't take paternity leave for either of the kids either. I was so focused on work. Lots of things I would change if I could. But I don't think I took a 2-week holiday for the first 2008, 2018. I've been done for 3 years. So 12, 13 years, nothing longer than a week. Never thought the company could support it, whatever. And then my business partner turned around and said, no, you haven't taken a long break. Take August off. This was 3 years ago. And as soon as I told people I was getting August off, people then start quoting what they know. And they're like, no, you need at least 2 weeks. It's anything over a week, you start to recover. And I kind of never really took that on board. I was like, yeah, whatever, a week's fine. And it always felt like it was semi-recovered, you straight back into work. But you take a month off, and it wasn't a full month. I actually worked a week in the middle. It creeps back in. I shouldn't, but I did. And I'm already, I'm online and I can see emails and stuff. But ultimately, I was away with the family for a month. But you come back feeling way different to just a week. I think there's a lot to be said for taking an extended period of time.
Oh yeah,
certainly 2 weeks. The difference between 2 and 1, I think, is pretty significant in terms of how you feel in mind, body, and spirit.
I mean, I think with 1 week, by the time you've done 3 days, you're like, oh, I'm getting closer to the end of the holiday than the beginning.
Yeah, you start dreading. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So it becomes a mind thing as well. But I mean, for me, Yeah, I sometimes, like when I went to Mexico, I remember this 2 years ago. I normally dread doing long haul flights unless I go for 3 weeks. I'm like, it's not really worth it. So I was going for 3 weeks at a time, but literally within 24 hours, because of the time difference when you travel west, I got there at like 4 PM. It was a daytime flight. I was in the sea, and I thought, wow, I could actually even go back tomorrow and I'd feel rejuvenated. Now, it might be a false sense of rejuvenation.
Yeah.
So part of me is like, actually, I feel like I can get that rest. I mean, I work differently to you, so you have a more intense life than I do. But I feel like I can get that in a short period of time. But this time, actually, I'm all about the long trips. I think I've done a few 3-week holidays since traveling for over 2 years, 20-something years ago. And then I did a month, I think 6 years ago in India. That's when I bust my knee though, so it's a very different experience. But this, I just realized, was the longest time I was away since I went on my big travels at the turn of the last century.
Yeah, and it was, it was spontaneous because no one really knew. It was great, fair play. There's some more spontaneity.
And this is another reason why I bought this new bag, because I when I was in Slovakia, I was kind of moving about a bit, and I had like a backpack, but it wasn't really convenient for like taking a laptop and taking a bunch of things. Really
we need to put this into a bit of context. So I'm going to cut you off because unless you've listened to every episode of our shows, right, people won't know why this is. They're like, why is Harry talking about buying a bag like this? Because, and I'm going to give it some context. You and I are different. I'm way more impulsive. I'll find something. I'll go on Amazon. I'll buy it. It'll be here tomorrow. I don't think too much about it. Harry, for those listening that hasn't listened to some of the earlier episodes we recorded, is a procrastinator who likes to research. If he can, he'll get a free trial. He'll do whatever he can before actually pressing the button and buying something. So the reason that Harry's brought this up twice already on the show, and I'm speaking for you here, is because it's a big deal for you to go out and just buy a bag, particularly when you already have one, right?
I didn't just buy it. I watched probably hours of different reviews on different bags. I actually went into this place.
It's a bag. It's just a bag, dude.
It's not. Like for me, like I've worked out that I like things. I like things beginning with B, right? Bikes, bottles, bags. I'm always looking for more of those three things. And so I've always got lots of different bottles, lots of different bikes, and lots of different bags, because there is no perfect bag. So I've yet to find it, but I do a lot of research. So the two bags behind me, which if you're watching, you can see, but that one I bought like 6 year ago, and I did about 6 months worth of research on that one, which I do love, but it's a bit too wide. And then this one's a little bit more work focused, I guess.
You like a bargain as well. There's a B for you.
That's not a bargain. I don't even want to tell you the price of what that bag behind me costs. Well, I will spend the money on good things, though. I will spend the money on good things.
I've got two good things I'll share with you while we're in the place of sharing new purchases. I didn't buy them. I got them for my birthday, because I haven't seen you since my birthday, right, which is August 13th.
No, happy belated birthday. I think I did wish you a happy birthday on
You did. I don't know why. I got a little plug out there for people to remember next year, so that's all good. But yeah, I got a sous vide. I love it. Sous vide cooker, water bath cooker, and I got an ice cream maker. Two little things, like cuisine art, beautiful. And I'm addicted. I should call it here. I've decided I'm going to try and get myself a MasterChef in 5 years. Yeah, I like my goals, long-term goals. That's my plan. And I'm thinking now that I've said it out loud, live on a show, and this will be dated and recorded, right? Hopefully I can use that I've just said that in my application to the show in 5 years' time, just to prove that I said it here now, right? But I'm loving it. I'm cooking. I'm water bathing everything I can possibly find, because you can cook anything in it. And it's a proper I did my research for that because it was a birthday gift from Lucy. Yeah. It's great. Keeps all the nutrition in, cooks everything brilliantly. Makes you feel like a master chef, which I'm not. But it's another hobby. See, I've got a new hobby now.
Yeah, you do go for hobbies. You're very good at getting new hobbies and things like that.
And gadgets to go with it. That's the thing I like.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think actually, I went to this place in Medellin that you would have liked. It's called a recovery center. It cost me £30 for the hour, but they did. I mean, most of the things we've got anyway. They had the Normatec boots, they had the Theragun, they did some massage, they did some cupping. You've had cupping done before, I guess.
I've had cupping, yeah. I'm not a big fan of actually, but I know, yeah.
I mean, they just. To be honest, I think it was a bit too bitty of everything. It was like 10 minutes of this, 10 minutes of that, 10 minutes of that. But the cupping that they did, it was very much like automated. So when I've done it in the past, I've done it with the candle, not the candle, the heat. The person heats it.
I've had someone do it to me. I went to a proper specialist who did it as part of a massage.
Yeah, that's what I mean. When they do it to me in the past, they heat the cup, they put it on, they do the thing.
Yeah,
and you're left with all these marks. But this one was like literally like Bluetooth enabled or whatever. Puts it on, it sucks, release, and then she just walks off and comes back like 10 minutes later. I'm like, okay, everything's kind of gone tech. So they did that. They did some massage. They did have cryo, but they only did upper body cryo, localized cryo. So I didn't do that.
I feel like there's a business here I could sell, because I've got my wife as a massage therapist, so we can offer the massage, right? Sports massage, we can do that. I've got the normal tech boots, I've got the Theragun, and I've got an infrared sauna. So.
Yeah, exactly. People have said the same of my place with all the things I've got, everything. So, it's definitely a business. In fact, actually, a friend of mine, the one that I met up with in Medellin, he's into mountain climbing and things like that. Yeah. And so he's actually very successful in the business that he's got, which is a bunch of CBD shops, I guess, like selling cannabinoids in the States. But he wants to set up a kind of like a one-stop training shop. But I think it's going to include things like hyperbaric chambers, nice. Training. He wants to do training at altitude, but within a room kind of setting. So he actually wanted me to do a bit of consulting with that. We never really got time, but hopefully that's another excuse to go out to Argentina and do a proper consult with him. But yeah, you've got all the stuff. Why not? People love that sort of stuff.
So the question is, with all these travels, filling these buckets up, you got a 0 resilience score because there's a tiredness about it. Yeah. How are you feeling? If you look at the science of happiness right now, where's your happiness scale?
You know what it was is I haven't looked. I've spent a lot of money this summer on these trips. A lot of money. I don't want to look at it because obviously you and I, we've had a transitional year. And at the end of the day, you can't take it with you, right? And life, like you say, it's about creating stories. I say about creating experiences, same. And so that's what I was thinking about the whole time. Like by going on these trips, I've actually had to sacrifice a few different things. I missed my niece's christening and catching up with all my family and a few other things that now it's actually going to have probably a bigger financial hit than I was expecting. But at the end of the day, who cares about the money, right? It's really about
100%.
It's about having those experiences. And I had an amazing experience while I was out there. I'm not sure we've got time to probably go into it, but I think I've talked to you before about various plant medicines. But my friend, as a birthday gift, got me a Bufu ceremony. I'm not sure if I spoke to you about Bufu before. I think I might.
No, I'm not familiar with Bufu. That's a new one on me.
So Bufu is I'm sure I've spoken about it maybe, but it's basically a psychedelic ceremony that you undertake with a shaman, and we researched the people. We knew the people. They've been doing it for 20 years, and it's a poison that is harvested from a toad that hibernates for 8 months of the year in the Sonora Desert.
You've told me about the toad and the poison, but I didn't know it was called a Bufu ceremony. I think you've told me about the shaman as well. But anyway,
I did it first time 2 years ago in Mexico with a shaman there, and you harvest it, you smoke it. And it's basically this substance called 5-MeO-DMT, which is, so DMT is, I can't remember what it stands for, like dimethyltryptophan or something like that. But it's a compound that's in all living beings, and it's especially prevalent in humans at the point of birth and at the point of death. So it's also called the spirit molecule because people believe that's the spirit entering and exiting the body. And we have DMT in us anyway, but like certain compounds like ayahuasca is a tea ceremony that you can do to do that. You can smoke pure DMT, which will be maybe a 15-minute experience, as opposed to ayahuasca, which may be 6 to 8 hours. 5-MeO-DMT is even stronger than DMT. It's like a rocket ship. And I did it 2 years ago, and I had a bit of control issues, I guess. I did have I ended up doing three journeys in 45 minutes, which was unheard of. And you smoke it, you hold your breath, or in the case 2 years ago, the shaman's wife was basically gagging you to make sure you don't breathe out until you pass out. And then what happens is if you let go, basically your body dissolves and you transcend this time and space. Now, 2 years ago, I had some journey. The third trip was really quite cool, and I went through the universe and ended up at what I perceived as the gates of heaven, which was quite amazing. This time I did the first trip, and I was still thinking, and you're not supposed to have a mind because you don't really have a body. And so I was still holding on. So I came out of it and I was a bit disappointed. And my mate, he did his, and he had a really nice journey. He ended up on some mountain top somewhere. And then they were like, well, do you want to go again? And I was thinking about it. Do I want to go? And I was trying to think what it meant by holding on, and am I ready to let go? And in the end, I got a bit of coaching. I took a bit. Apparently, I took a really small bit, actually. But my heart opened up. I surrendered. And I cannot tell you, I can't put into words the experience that I had. Like, everything dissolved. It was beyond the universe, beyond the gates of heaven, beyond, like, I saw and felt every single soul ever to exist in any dimension. I went through different dimensions. I can't, it's like this weird thing. Like, you know, when you come out, like you're in the Matrix, and you suddenly step out and you're like, actually, this is the Matrix that we're in. It was so amazing. I mean, I was probably only under for about 10, 15 minutes. And then when I came out of it, they thought I was going to throw up, because I don't know if I told you about the Kundalini experience I had at Mind Valley, where the woman was doing this energy work, and you lie there, and I thought I was just going to go and sleep, because I've seen people do it before. I'm like, and they move their body, and I'm like, oh, this all sounds a bit like sketchy, right? I think they will make it up. And when I was in Mind Valley, the woman wasn't even near me, and my body was like, I was having an exorcism, and my body was like convulsing, like I felt this energy flow through me. That happened like 2 months ago. Then when I was coming out of the Bufu, and I'd just done this crazy trip into other realities, and I was coming out, and I had like the smile on my face, but then I started to open my eyes, but my body was convulsing and moving. It was like a wave going through me. Like literally my whole torso was coming up out. It was almost like I was going to levitate. And then they thought I was going to be sick, so they kind of turned my body. I'm like, no, I'm fine. I was like that for about 15 minutes. And then I started cracking up and laughing and a bit of crying. And it was just...
Did you have a chance to connect with your dad in your experience or not?
No, you know what? I didn't. And I felt like, because it was challenging, because you should have an intention going in, and I wasn't sure whether my intention was going to be about healing. And I was thinking, I said to them, I think it's still too early for me to do healing. I think the first year is still that shot. And then I wasn't sure if I was going to do something to do the intention with something else. And so when I went in, I didn't feel his presence, but I felt it in the way that I felt the presence of every single living thing.
Sure.
And I felt this immense love, safety, surrender, openness.
Oh, that's nice.
But
that's good.
Like visually, it's hard to describe what was visual, but like you don't know. It's basically like you feel like you're like, I imagine what it is like to die, because you don't have a consciousness of time, space, body, mind, anything. It's really weird. It was like
I've lost something. It's like trying to explain or describe what orange juice tastes like when you've never tried orange juice or never tried orange. It's an impossibility.
It's impossible.
And I've not been through that experience. I will tell you though, it reminded me of something that happened when I was on holiday. Now, I'll mention it for those that are spiritual. I'm sure it's very easily explainable, but I've not really had any signs from my dad since he passed away. My mum's had loads and loads and loads. She sees his face every day, sees white feathers, my sisters and all these little things. I haven't. I can see him in front of me now, see his picture here, and I'm very honest, you know. I'm not, I don't disbelieve in spirits, and I just haven't had that experience where I feel like there's been a sign, so to speak. But we're in Turkey of all places. The funny thing about this one was it relates to another story. My father-in-law he's a diabetic, and lost his in diabetes medicine when he was in a holiday in France at my dad's house. He was doing some work out there, and every single person in the house, my mum, Mike, the other people there were looking for this thing, and it wasn't anywhere to be found. And Mike went to bed, and when he woke up in the morning, it was next to his bed on the bedside table, and everyone had been asleep, and there was it wasn't there before. Like they'd all saying, Mike felt like it was my dad saying, "Yeah, I'm here, Mike," because it was my dad's. He was at my dad's house. And he needs that to survive, right? It's a big thing for diabetes. And it was there by the side of his bed. And Mike, my father-in-law, he's in his 70s. He got quite emotional about it. He was like, I don't know how to explain it. I feel quite emotional because we looked there not just once, like 3 of us looked there 10 times over. It wasn't there. So but he told me that story. So bear in mind, I'm planting a seed of something that happened to me. But we're in Turkey. And of all things, my fitness watch, which right now, ironically, is completely dead. Is that battery? And as luck would have it, I'm trying to find the charger for it. But we were on a holiday and it went dead. And I was like, I've got to find the charger for my watch. And we looked everywhere. I've got a bag dedicated for wires. Opened it, wasn't there. It wasn't. It's just not anywhere. Like I was turning the place upside down because it was right near the beginning of the holiday. I had no way of finding it at the time. I only watch I brought with me. And I like to have my watch and my fitness data, my sleep data. Yeah. I couldn't find this charger. And I was turning the house upside down, right? And it just wasn't there. And then, anyway, so weren't thinking about anything. And my mum dropped me a message. No, it was my sister, Imogen, dropped me a message about my dad, just saying, hey, you know, blah, 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 and I'm missing dad, whatever. And as I put the phone down, the charger was right by it. And it wasn't there before because it was exactly where all the other wires would be when I'd searched like 100 times before, and it was just there. And I was like, that is just so, like, you get that motion of just feeling of, that's just weird. Maybe I overlooked it 10 times over. I don't know, but it was just there. And I put it back. Imagine, you know, I called my sister straight back and went, the weirdest thing has just happened. I've literally put that, it's just there. It's just bizarre, but I'm linking it to the other story. But where I wanted to go, I mean, that's just a memory that hit me when you were talking about your experience. But what I loved about the story more than anything else, and what I love about you saying life is about experience, I say life's about stories. I've said that for a long, long time, well before I came into the world of coaching and mindfulness, as you know. And I've kind of led my life through the story principle. And I like my parables, but do you live a reported life or do you live a created life, right? Do we create the experiences for ourselves or do we just report on them? And there's a great story. I think I may have shared it on the podcast before about two shoemakers. The father is a shoemaker and he sends both his sons to Africa and says, go make your living, you know, go do what you need to do. And the first guy arrives and says, you know, with his family come over, or his family due to come over. And he realizes that nobody wears shoes. And he's like, he called his dad and said, you sent me here, Dad. Like, no one wears shoes. How on earth am I making a living? I'm a shoemaker. How am I going to make any kind of life whatsoever? He's reporting what he's seeing and he gets the next flight back. The other son wakes up, realizes that no one wears shoes and calls his wife and says, get out here as soon as you can. We're going to make a killing. Because they're going to, and it's like the same vision, but it's two different experiences. And one is creating a life for themselves in that instance, and one is a reported one. What I like about that concept is, what are the three questions we can ask ourselves? If you live in that reported life mindset of, you know, I'll be happy when I have this much money, or this is going well because I've got this in my bank account, and we're talking about money before, whatever it is that we're reporting on, that's not living, that's not creating an experience, you're living by a reporting set of metrics. There are three great questions to move yourself from reported life into created life. And I reference this because it's something I think you've done that you're quite a planned, organized guy, right? It always happens I've known you. So to suddenly see you in these different countries, I'm loving it because this is like the spontaneous Harry, which I know you've got inside you because of the things you've done, but it's great to see it. But it's like, how will I create myself today? That's kind of question one. You know, am I going to be courageous? Am I going to be curious? Am I going to be calm and confident? Whatever it is you need, how am I going to create myself today? And for you in that moment, it was, right, I'm going to go and be spontaneous and get a flight here or go there. And it's then, how will I create today? You know, how am I going to show up? There's one thing saying, how will I create myself? Or how am I going to make that show up in the world? And you've got to create that for yourself, right? And then how am I going to create the world today? So from that growth mindset, they all link. It's like, how do I create myself? How do I create today? And how do I create the world as well? And you've done that with those stories. You could have said no to the experience because of many reported things. It's reported that it's dangerous. I'm in a dangerous place.
I mean, honestly, I was even though I'd done it before, I was kind of scared, more so because when the first time you do it, it's like the first time you do a bungee jump or skydive, you kind of don't know what you're in for. Then the second time that you do it, the third time, you kind of do know. And so it's better sometimes when you don't know enough. And so this time, because I knew, like they do this thing beforehand, where it's called a rapé, and they blow this weird tobacco type thing up into your nostrils, and then you're not supposed to breathe through your nose for at least 5 minutes. So you breathe through your mouth, which I really don't like doing. And it opens up your third eye, supposedly. And also we took this weird kind of nutritional supplement beforehand where it's like a powder. It was a bit like a spirulina kind of powder. It was all of that sort of stuff. And you kind of put it in the side of your mouth and you have to like kind of chew it until it becomes like a bit harder. It was really weird. So those new things. And then I remember last time smoking the pipe, and there's no two ways about it. It's like a big crack pipe, and there was like a big bowl thing. And then, like I said, the shaman woman gagged me for she didn't know I could hold my breath for a while. So she was like, you were like holding your breath for like a minute, because normally like you would exhale the smoke, but I kept it for like over a minute. Whereas this time, the guys, they had like the smaller pipe, and they're like, oh, that big pipe doesn't sound like what we would do. And then they didn't gag you or anything like that. They said, you just hold your breath, count to like 15, and then you can exhale slowly. And I was like, so that felt a little bit better. And I think the reason I dropped in the second time, not the first, was because I had that surrender and that kind of that knowledge of what was going to happen in terms of the process leading up to it, rather than when you're actually in the experience. But going back to the spontaneity stuff, I mean, when I traveled for 2 and a bit years, I was always like doing different things. Like I was walking down a street in San Francisco one day, saw a sign for $200 for a flight to Guatemala that night. I took that flight. I didn't even know where Guatemala was. Didn't know what language they spoke. Didn't realize they'd been in the Civil War for 30 years and they'd come out of it 2 years earlier. And so I was doing that sort of stuff all the time. And then doing this, it kind of reminded me that I love doing that sort of stuff. And,
you've reconnected with the former self almost, haven't you? But it's good. It's like, how you going to show up? I don't know if, I guess the challenge for the listeners, if for them to have something to take away, right? It's very easy to feel like you're in Groundhog Day. I think it's one of the biggest wellness pandemics or whatever we've got that we're dealing with in the society at the minute, right? We've got more benefits and more things given flexibility and freedom we've ever had in the world, and yet the wellness, people aren't feeling happy. The mental health, there's a mental health crisis. And I think there's too much reporting going on of waking up and going, it's another day at work, it's another day of the same old thing. And you've created that mindset before you even start the day. You wake up and you've already decided how your day is going to pan out, because you're telling yourself, today I'm going to create myself a monotonous, dull, bored, whatever, frustrated and all these different things, self-version of myself today, which means how am I going to show up in the world? Well, I'm going to show up in the world in exactly the things I don't want, which is going to be reserved, bored, frustrated. And I just think, I'm not saying it's possible to do this every day, but in terms of not getting out of that mindset, but you can certainly wake up and go, right, actually, I've got these things ahead of me. What am I going to create today? What am I going to create at work? And it doesn't have to be work. What friendships and what communications are going to have? What conversations we're going to have? How am I going to show up in the world? I'm going to show up to be positive, enthusiastic. I'm going to show kindness today. You know what? I pass this person every day on the way to work, selling the big issue as an example. And then for the last 4 weeks, I've done nothing about it. Today, I'm going to show up and I'm going to support that individual. It's amazing how those kind of things, when you tell yourself and you create a life for yourself, there's a steamrolling effect, a domino effect that
and I think it's like
change the story. Maybe you end up in a conversation with the guy who sells a big issue. Maybe you find out that actually they did the same kind of line of work that you did before. It can go anywhere, but if you don't put yourself out there and you just report on it, there's a big issue sell I pass every day, it means nothing. When you create a story around that and make that thing happen, wonderful things can come on the back of it.
I think for being like for giving someone who's listening a practical approach to this. Firstly, I would say that situation stems from our two base needs, right? We've got a need for certainty and a need for uncertainty. And when I was away, for example, there was a lot of uncertainty because we didn't know what's happening each day, but I did crave that certainty. I wanted that routine. I wanted the sleep. I wanted all of this. Now, when we are working from home or we're working in the same job and we go to the same place all the time, we have too much certainty, right? Because we're like, we know the commute's going to be terrible or whatever it will be. We know we're going to pass the guy with the big issue. We know we're going to go and get our Starbucks, whatever the thing is. So my suggestion to clients I normally work with is, how do you introduce that uncertainty into the day in a kind of a safe, structured way? And what I mean is a very real world example. Let's say you always walk a particular way to work, right? You always take that street. You always turn right there. You always do that. Just do something a little bit differently. Just add that little bit of variety into your day, because you never know, right? By walking down that other street, you might bump into that long lost friend that you haven't seen, or that future romantic partner, or whatever the thing might be. And it allows you, within your normal monotonous, let's say, day to day, if that's what you're going to use to describe your day, that uncertainty, that spontaneity is not about booking a flight to Guatemala or going to Medellin, right? And taking those things. It's about introducing little bits of uncertainty into your day, right? Instead of ordering that same cup of coffee, order that different meal or that different coffee where you're not quite sure what the outcome is going to be, because that will train the body as well. Because a lot of the time people try to make the bigger changes. Yeah, in my experience,
it's too much.
It's too much, and it's like a decision. And I actually had a bit of decision paralysis, which will probably come as no surprise to you when I was out there, because I was like, I don't know who I want to invite for dinner tonight. I don't know where I want to go, and it got too much because there was too many options a lot of the time. And why I tell people about decisions is just make a decision, right? You are going to make wrong decisions from time to time, but at least you own that decision. At least you have that responsibility.
It touched upon a couple of things. I think the first is when we make the decision too big, it activates a different part of the brain, right? So people will be familiar with fight, flight, and freeze, but that's the reptilian brain. That's the brain that's been going for thousands of years, right? And if you make a really big decision, it causes the reptilian brain to activate and go, right, have I just given myself too much? I'm now in the space of shock, indecision, I'm freezing, whatever it is. I'm going to run from the situation. It's not what I wanted. It's too big. So I totally agree. I think small changes with spontaneity are a great way to start and to start that created life process and coming away from that reported life process. The only thing I want to challenge you with, and I think it's just a use of vocabulary, but I'm a big I love language. I like to, when I'm coaching clients, that's one of the things I'm really trying to hang my hat on, is listen to the language people are using. And you said, when people wake up and they know they're going to see that person, they know they're going to take that route. The fact is, we don't know anything. But I think that's half the problem, is we think we know that thing. And that stops us from being creative. It stops us from being aware of our surroundings. We start making assumptions that may or may not exist, that we know that big issue seller is going to be there, but in reality, we don't know. There's a likelihood he will be. But what about the day you walk past and he's not? Actually, that could lead you to a much more exciting journey as well, because you become aware of it and you're not taking it for granted, and you start asking yourself questions, you start being curious about the world. Actually, that can lead you to some great things as well. So I think, sometimes we can fall into the trap of thinking we know. And I think that almost is part of the problem of that Groundhog Day feeling. We know it's going to be a bad day today. We tell ourselves these stories. And there's a word which I love in the dictionary called confabulation, which is believing the stories we tell ourselves. So you want to try and break that. It's not just about a work day. This applies to everything. People get worried, I can't public speak, or I could never do that thing. I can't do what Harry does. I couldn't get on a flight. We're capable of doing all these things. It's just we believe the stories we tell ourselves, so that it's like a protective layer. We give ourselves that survival blanket that means we don't have to push ourselves out of that comfort zone, which is why actually the advice you gave is bang on. Start small. Just train the brain to take bigger
everything. Exercise, food, decision-making. It's so important, because a lot of people are in a rush to get to the result. And actually, I always say, if it takes you, 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 years, whatever, doesn't really matter for the most part, depending on the thing that you're looking for, because you're going to have that for the rest of your life. But if you keep flip-flopping about, it's going to be a lot harder. So the next time someone asks you, what movie do you want to watch? Instead of saying, I don't know, you choose, or what do you want to have for lunch? Oh, you decide. You made the decision, right? Yeah. And you are going to make those bad decisions from time to time, and that's fine. But introduce that variety into your day, because it's like if you went to the cinema and you'd watched all the spoiler reviews, you're not going to be excited by going to the cinema, because you know what's going to happen. And so, we don't really know what's going to happen each day, but we make an assumption, or we assume, and as they say, makes an ass out of you and me when you assume things, but we assume we're going to have that kind of standard day, which is why, even though you're right, we don't know the big issue guy's going to be there for sure, right? But, he's been there nine times out of 10. We're pretty confident. So that's why I say you have to then put that deliberate variety in, because you know that he's not going to be there if you take a different route or whatever.
I also think when we talk about results, we've talked a lot on this show, we're both in agreement, it's the journey, not the destination, right? But actually the result is often the most disappointing thing for many reasons. If you listen to Johnny Wilkinson talk about kicking that goal that won the World Cup in rugby, it was his best day, and also the most depressing day, because something he'd been dreaming of all his life was over. What happens next? And I think, sometimes it's the journey of getting to there that is the exciting bit, because more often than not, the result is like the euphoria we feel, the adrenaline rush, all the different chemicals go on the body when we have a good experience. They're usually pretty short-lived. And then you've got the come down of going, well, what now? And actually it's the experience of creating that really drives us, the ability to create, not the result at the end of it, the ability to create, even if it's wealth, right? There's a lot more, people are a lot happier in the journey of creating wealth than they are when they have wealth. So it's that creative journey, as an example.
That really hits home. That really hits home with me, because actually several times in this last month, I've been too focused on an outcome. Right? Even that first Bufu trip, I was thinking about the outcome. It's like, I had this trip last time. I was wanting that rather than being present in the journey itself. The second time, I was present in the journey. And that happened a few times with certain people I met as well, where I was so outcome focused with what I wanted the outcome of that interaction to be, that I wasn't really present during the interaction, so that the outcome when I did get it was not as good as it could have been. And so I was really, meditating on this for a long time, a couple of weeks ago, where I was thinking, I know what's gone wrong in these situations, and it's because I've become outcome focused. I was thinking, I just need to get to this goal. I don't care how I get to it. I just need to get it. And then when I got it, I was like, actually, I really should have been more present through that journey, and it would have been a different result. It might not have been the result I was looking for, but at least I would have enjoyed 90% of that time, because I was enjoying the journey, but not getting the result, as opposed to getting the result, but not enjoying the journey as it was.
Yeah, no, sure. I was like the story, I've mentioned it before, but I think it positions this so nicely, which is the Everest one, where, you know, it takes me 9 months to get there with the training. By the way, I haven't climbed Everest, but I'd love to. But, you know, in theory, if I was to take the journey to do it, it'd take you months of acclimatization, of training, of practice, going through the ordeal, climbing through the snow, dealing with the temperatures, the difficulty of getting to the top, the risks, all those things. We get to the top, and the view when you've gone through all of that is going to be, we know it's going to be short-lived. It's going to be absolutely spectacular because you've gone through that difficult period. But if you met me at the top and you flew there by helicopter, if you can get there by helicopter, right? It's a very different. The view in theory is the same, but it's entirely different because you haven't gone through that journey to get there. You're just flying off and go, yeah, this is pretty good. Pretty similar to what I could see out of the helicopter, to be honest. You know, if we get higher in a helicopter, you're missing the point. The point of getting to that view is the journey to get there. Yeah. And I think that for me positions it nicely.
I would argue as well that the view is different, because not only just because there's two different people looking at it, but the experiences of those two people coming into that view has been different. And so you look at the world through different lenses, because one, you're looking at that vista.
But one's going to report on it, and one's going to create. That's a good example of the reported versus created life, to be honest.
One has created that journey up to that point and has all that experience going up to that, all that hardship going up to that, looking at that vista. The other one is just looking at that vista and has had that chocolate ride. So they are looking at two different things, because everything you look at in the world, you're looking at through a lens of your experiences.
Of experience, sure.
Yeah. And so we all have different experiences. So we're all looking at things differently, right? Like we've said so many times, right? We can go to the same party and see it totally differently. We can go to the same speech, right? And see it totally differently, right? So we're always looking at things differently. So we're never looking at the same view. But
that's why you don't actually need to take a different route to work. I take your concept. Sometimes the spontaneous bit can just be looking up a bit more on that walk to work and noticing, you know, what can you notice today that you've never noticed before in your walk? You'd be amazed.
I'll tell you what, amazed. Is the challenge to people, right? Only because I'm getting so irritated with this recently, right? Put your phone in your bag, right? Just put it in your bag that you can't get to it when you walk to it. So don't have it in your pocket, don't have it easily accessible, and walk to work tomorrow without your phone in your hand. Please just do that and just see how that feels.
And if you don't need to walk to work because you work from home, give yourself a walk to do before you start. Go and take a
and leave your phone away. I did that when I was away somewhere. I think I was having problems with my data, or I didn't have any charge, and I just did it without a phone, and it was like, wow, this is how I used to travel for years. No phone. It's just like a Lonely Planet guidebook.
So we all traveled, mate. It didn't exist when we were younger, right?
No, people don't understand that, and I'm explaining to these kids who are 20 years younger than me.
Well, actually, I don't know. It's probably a good place to finish the show on that note. There's a challenge set for the listeners, but I'm a bit addicted to Race Across the World, as many people are. I love the show. It just speaks to me in so many different ways: the challenge, the event, the race, the competitiveness, the travel. But of course, you're not allowed your phones. And then you get to watch and experience they don't miss them at all, or they don't perceive to be missing them on TV. And you actually see the human connection bit come out. They're forced to go and talk to people and to build the person that they're traveling with. They're not just sat there on an 18-hour bus ride. The first thing you do on an 18-hour bus ride, 99% of us would get our phones out and just scroll and get rid of the time. They can't do that, so they have to talk and connect and play games and play cards and have conversations and meet people around them and build communities. And it's we watch it. We don't always listen to the advice that we see in front of our eyes.
Yeah, that was my world for 2 and a bit years. I just took a Walkman and 9 tapes with me. I bought 3 tapes when I was away: Tom Jones, Reload, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Around the World, Californication, sorry, and then Craig David, Born to Do It. Those are the 3 tapes I allowed myself to buy.
That's some eclectic taste across there. Craig David and Red Hot Chili Peppers. I mean, I get it, but yeah.
Yeah. Love it. Bit of Craig David.
Well, look, I appreciate you jumping on just before you catch your next flight off to more wondrous places across the globe. I look forward to catching up again soon. Listeners, thanks. You got your challenge set.
And no phones.
If you enjoyed the show, please remember to subscribe, share it, Do whatever you can. Leave us a review. That really helps grow the show as well. Thanks for those that have been tuning in on YouTube. I think the last short video had over 400 views in the first hour of release, which is amazing. So
Excellent.
Thanks for following us and all the different guises. Keep sharing, keep reviewing, and keep commenting if you can. And we'll look forward to being the next one we'll see.
And keep writing your own stories. That's what I say as well.
Created life, not a reported life. All right, good stuff.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.